Welcome to the podcast. I'm Ben.
I'm Mae.
And I'm Max. And we were had.
Can you believe it?
There are twists and there are turns.
Defleshed is a standard noun.
Oh, that's fun.
We were had.
We were.
All right. First things first. It's not a mistake. You'll notice that we're wearing the same outfits that we were in the last episode. We are recording this exactly 20 minutes after.
I was going to say from now on, this is a cartoon.
We're cartoon characters. No. We had to do a double dose of it. Mae is staying at the Kennedy compound next week, so we had to pile up some episodes. Mm-hmm. We got a belly full of gyros and a will to dream. This week, we are coming.
A will to dream.
A will to dream.
We can do it. We can dream.
We can
Not live, though.
No, we cannot.
I once knew a guy in college that was such a pussy. I was like, you're going to have a tombstone that says, died from lack of will to live. And that was my big burn.
That's a sophisticated
If you don't know this, Mae's actually a roast comic now. A lot of people don't know that about her. Mae's a roast comic, so that's...
I've lost every roast I've ever done. He was so lazy. Oh my God. Anyway.
That's such a, it's like a fancy insult.
You're going to die from the lack of will to live, you insolent bitch.
It's like a Shakespeare. Yeah, I like it.
He had no will to live. He said that he had this condition that when he woke up too early, he would feel really sick. I was like, okay, everybody.
Okay, pussy.
I think you just berated a clinically depressed
Yeah, I think you're
person.
just a sad man. And Mae was just fucking slap a smile on you, little girl.
Crying? You crying?
Speaking of lacking the will to live, Vincent Wilhelm Van Gogh is today's topic. More specifically, was he murdered?
Oh.
Now, you'll notice that famously, people say that he committed suicide because he was known to be mentally ill. But today, we are going to weigh whether or not that actually is true, because there was a very famous book that mentioned that he might have been, I just dropped gyro in my mouth, and I can taste tzatziki.
We shared hummus and tzatziki. My idea to share tzatziki also. The gyros had French fries inside of them.
I'm getting repeated. There's repeating going on right now.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Please.
In about 35 minutes, it's a race to the toilet.
I don't feel good. I'm sweating.
I'm sweating so much more than I was before this.
I'm sweating straight feta.
Mae, by the way, said, I'm getting the salad. I'm eating healthy. It was a salad without lettuce and just a pile of feta cheese.
With oil on it. And pita bread. Oh my God. Ooh, okay. Oh my God.
Vincent Van Gogh lived from March 30th, 1853 to July 29th, 1890. Ironically, right around the time that the previous episode, Jack the Ripper murders, occurred. He was a Dutch post-impressionist painter who posthumously became one of the most famous and influential figures in the history of Western art. In a decade, he created about 2,100, that's 2,100 heartworks, including 860 oil paintings, most of which date from the last 2 years of his life. I might pass out while narrating this. They include landscapes, still lifes, portraits, and I think I have a favorite. I think I have a fever. Not gonna lie. I think I have a fever.
Hallucinating.
In self-portrait. It's also the hottest day of the
maybe
year.
maybe it's the lack of AC.
Yeah, well, we had to turn it off.
Everything.
Well, let's see how we get 10 minutes into this if we had to turn it on.
Okay.
Self-portraits also. He did a lot of self-portraits.
This actually feels like our first episode. This is almost like a Hot Ones episode. This is like if we're going to finish the Van Gogh episode.
We just had to bomb, and we're like, we're not going to make it. All right. His paintings are all characterized by bold colors and dramatic, impulsive, expressive brushwork that contributed to the foundations of modern art. This guy fucking laid the groundwork. He was not commercially successful, and his suicide at 37 came after years of depression and poverty, even though he was born to a pretty good family. He was a heavy drinker, in all caps, with big mental health issues. He was really what gave credence to the idea of the tortured artist, which has led to the people romanticizing this, because a guy who did nothing in his lifetime but paint and was only appreciated after his death. For context, he was so commercially unsuccessful during his lifetime, he was considered a madman and a failure. Ooh. He became famous after his suicide and exists in the public imagination as a misunderstood genius where discourses on madness and creativity converge. He only sold one painting painting during his lifetime for what would be about $2,000 today.
So how did he support himself?
He was living in like budget inns, and he was in and out of asylums as well. But his brother put him up a lot too. His brother Theo was like a benefactor for him a lot of this time. He came from an upper middle class family. It wasn't that hard to live in an inn back then.
Yeah.
And I think his brother Theo put him up.
I think he also got helped out or money lended to him by some other famous painters. Gauguin.
He had a lot of very famous painter friends.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gauguin was the one that with the ear. Right? We'll get into that later.
Okay.
His paintings, by the way, are now some of the most famous in the world.
Yeah.
And
most
expensive.
Most expensive.
The lilies, I believe. There are a few that are like top most expensive sold.
Can I tell you ever seen Starry Night in person?
Beautiful.
Tiny.
Yeah,
Gorgeous.
it is tiny.
Oh,
Mona Lisa
baby.
also
Mona
tiny.
Lisa.
Yeah, Mona Lisa
Baby.
really small.
Yeah.
But like you imagine, because it's first of all, it's Starry Night. It's this landscape. I was expecting
Yes.
it to be fucking enormous. Baby.
Yeah,
Yeah,
tiny.
It's underwhelming in person.
Where is it? The Louvre?
The MoMA,
Oh.
right? Museum Modern Art?
Which one's in Chicago?
Or it's in the Met. It's in one of those two. The
It might be the Met.
The
There's
Starry
a-
Night's in New York.
There's definitely a famous one at the Art Institute in Chicago. It might be the one of his room. This like really, have you ever seen that painting? It's like a painting of his room. I don't remember where it was, but it's like so depressing how small the room is. Also like with the perspective.
Well,
It's
he's
just
always staying in these really upsetting rooms.
Yeah,
Talk
yeah.
about depression. Also, not to dunk on you hoes, but I did go to the Immersive Van Gogh exhibit in New York City, Manhattan. Heard of it. And it was pretty cool. Can't recommend it enough.
nice.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
It's like a dorm room. Like there's just something so depressing about it.
Yeah, it's a
Anyway,
bummer.
Yeah.
Deteriorating mental health. So he was in and out of bouts with depression and paranoid thoughts and that kind of stuff throughout his whole life. But in 1889, Van Gogh experienced a deterioration in his mental health. As a result of incidents in Arles leading to a public petition, he was admitted to a hospital. Whenever he was like in towns, the people didn't really love him that much. You'll find out more about that later. His condition improved and he was ready to be discharged by March 1889, coinciding with the wedding of his brother Theo to Johanna Bonger. However, at the last moment, his resolution failed him, and he confided to Frederick Salz, who served as an unofficial chaplain to the hospital's Protestant patients, that he would want it to be confined to an asylum. He was very, to his credit, he was very open about his mental health.
Yeah.
And aware, it seems like.
And
that
they're
he
very
needed
self-aware.
some
He was like,
help.
I need help.
Yeah.
Which is that's inspiring.
Yeah.
At Sal's suggestion, Van Gogh chose an asylum in Narreboy Saint Remy. Also, supportive family. Theo often paid for it.
Yeah, it sounds like the brother was.
He often paid for the stays, but he was like the cheapest options. But God forbid, you know what I mean? When it happens every other 6 months, you're not going to keep doing it. Theo originally resisted this choice, even such that Vincent rejoined Paul Gauguin in Pont-Aven, but was eventually won over, agreeing to pay the asylum fees, requesting the cheapest third-class accommodation. Wikipedia very pettily put that in there, by the way. Vincent entered the asylum in early May 1889. His mental condition remained stable for a while, and he was able to work en plein air, a.k.a. painting outdoors, producing many of his most iconic paintings, such as The Starry Night, at this time. Pretty cool. However, at the end of July, following a trip to Arles, he suffered a relapse that lasted a month. He made a good recover, only to suffer another relapse in late December 1889. And early the following January, an acute relapse while delivering a portrait of Madame Junot to her in Arles. This last relapse, described by Jan Hulsker as his longest and saddest, lasted until March 1890. That is 4 months of obscene unhappiness.
Ooh.
In May 1890, he was discharged from the asylum. The last painting he produced at the asylum was At Eternity's Gate, an image of desolation and despair. We'll clip the picture there, but it's just a really sad old man in a chair crying in his hands.
And At Eternity's Gate, also the name of the Willem Dafoe movie.
Oh, yeah, which Ben did not like.
It's a very. I mean, I'm sure some people think it's brilliant. Yeah, keep going.
What
Yes.
did he have a diagnosis?
I don't think they really had like specific names for
Yeah.
that back then, but nothing good.
Nothing good. Okay.
I'm sure the drinking didn't help either, living the poverty, and the whole thing about being an artist, you don't know, like all that kind of stuff. After spending a few days after he got out with Theo and Joe in Paris, Vincent went to live in Auvers-sur-Orge, a commune north of Paris, popular with artists. So he had some changing moods changing moods onward after 1890.
So we're at 1890,
So things are
and
looking up.
this is the year that he will die. Okay,
which
got
is
it.
why,
so we're towards the
again,
end.
why some people are like, he couldn't have committed suicide. He was kind of really happy leading up to his death.
He was like doing the.
He was finally turning it around. So even though he could turn on a dime mental health wise, but shortly before leaving, Van Gogh told how he was suffering from his stay in the hospital. He said, "The surroundings here are beginning to weigh me down more than I can say. I need some air. I feel overwhelmed by boredom and grief."
Ooh.
So that's what led him to Auvers. Van Gogh's health was still not very good when he got there. Writing on 21st May to Theo, he comments, "I can do nothing about my illness. I am suffering a little just now. The thing is that after that long seclusion, the days seem like weeks to me."
Ooh.
But by May 25th, the artist was able to report to his mother that his health had improved and that the symptoms of his disease had disappeared. His letters to his sister Wilhelmina on June 5th and to Theo and his wife Jo on about June 10th indicate a continued improvement, his nightmares almost having disappeared.
Okay.
So he's on the mend. Things in Auvers. He's painting outside. It's wonderful.
Okay, we're
and
in
he's
May,
a good
right?
relationship with his family too.
We're in June now. He has the family, to their credit, are all pretty supportive of him, and the dream. And also to his credit, he's very open about his mental health. He often waxes on and he loves writing letters to his brother, especially, and other people, talking about his mental health and his current status and that kind of stuff, which is weird. It'll come back to the death. That there wasn't a lot of writing attached to it. But on June 12th, he wrote to his friends, Mr. and Mrs. Janot in Arles, telling them how his health had suffered at St. Remy, the asylum, but had since improved. But latterly, I had contracted the other patient's disease to such an extent that I could not be cured of my own. The other patient's society had a bad influence on me, and in the end, I was absolutely unable to understand it. Then I felt I had better try a change, and for that matter, the pleasure of seeing my brother, his family, and my painter friends again has done me a lot of good, and I am feeling completely calm and normal.
So just swinging back and forth. Okay.
Slam dunk, though. There's some more talking about the breeze, talking about the color schemes. He doesn't want to paint as sad anymore. He's talking about tranquil. It starts affecting his paintings. They start becoming less kind of really upsetting and more like beautiful kind of. You'll notice that in this area, Auvers, he painted so many beautiful paintings and landscapes here that people go on tours to look at to stand where he was painting and looking and painting that kind of stuff.
Oh, that is cool.
So the first sign of new problems was revealed in a letter Van Gogh wrote to Theo on July 10th. He first states, "I am very well. I am working hard, having painted 4 studies and all. First of all, he is sicker than I am, I think, or shall we just... I think that we must not count on Dr. Gashett at all. First of all, he is sicker than I am, I think, or shall we say just as much, so that's that. I don't know what to say. Certainly my last attack, which was terrible, was in a large measure due to the influence of the other patients." Later in the letter, he adds, "For myself, I can only say at the moment that I think we all need rest. I feel I failed. In French, je me sens raté." And in an even more despairing tone, he adds, "And the prospect grows darker. I see no happy future at all."
Okay.
Pretty ominous. And another letter on July 10th. This guy was just fucking writing letters to Theo.
Yeah, wow.
That's what happens when you're not selling any paintings.
Yeah.
I try to be fairly good-humored in general, but my life too is threatened at its very root, and my step is unsteady too. He then comments on his current work. "I have painted 3 more large canvases. They are vast stretches of corn under troubled skies, and I did not have to go out of my way very much in order to try to express sadness and extreme loneliness." But he adds, "I'm fairly sure that these canvases will tell you that I cannot say in words what I cannot say in words. That is how healthy and invigorating I find the countryside." So there's a painting here. It's actually quite beautiful. He's painting the corn. He's really feeling in touch with it.
Yeah, it's great.
He wrote in his letter.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Give it a 7.
Then he wrote to his mom and sister on July 12th, "I'm in a mood of almost too much calm, just the mood needed for painting this." And he sent them like a beautiful sky of delicate tones, blue, white, pink, and violet. The guy's doing well.
All right, so up and down, up and down.
Up and down.
In the spring.
And then he was kind of on the ups in this last summer. And then on July 23rd, he wrote to his brother, stressing his renewed involvement in painting. "I am giving my canvases my undivided attention. I am trying to do as well as other certain painters who I have greatly loved and admire. Perhaps you will take a look at the sketch of Daubigny's garden. It is one of my most carefully thought out canvases. I am adding a sketch of some old thatched roofs and the sketches of 2 size 30 canvases representing vast fields of wheat after the rain." So
Okay.
let's talk about the shooting, huh?
Oh, wow. Okay.
The shooting was
either that he pulled the trigger or someone else, correct?
The shooting is 4 days after he sent this to his brother, being like, "Look at this. I'm so into painting right now. Check out these sketches. I've got a lot on the horizon."
Quick question. The ear thing. When was that?
1890. Oh, the ear
Ear.
thing?
When he cut off
Ear
his ear.
thing,
The
yeah.
ear thing was, I don't know the exact.
years before,
It was
probably?
a few years before, yeah.
Got it. So
and
just part of the whole. I
Yeah,
mean, that
so
was in a fit.
1888. This was 2 years, 1 or
Got
2
it.
years
Okay.
beforehand.
And he cut off his own ear. Didn't he ship it to someone or no?
No, but
Oh,
we'll
okay.
talk about the rumors involved in that and that kind of
okay.
stuff. Let's talk about the shooting. Adeline Revue, the innkeeper's daughter, who was only 13 at the time, clearly recalled the incidents of July 1890. Didn't she? In an
Yeah.
account written when she was 76. She didn't publicly recount any
She
of
was
this
only
until
13
she was
at the time.
76.
Oh, I see. I see,
Okay.
yeah.
63 years later, 53 years later, reinforced by her father's repeated reminders, she
No, wait,
explained...
63 years.
63 years later, reinforced by her father's repeated reminders, she explains how on July 27th, does that mean he was still alive? Jesus Christ. July 27th, Van Gogh left the inn after breakfast. When he had not returned by dusk, given the artist's regular habits, the family became worried. He finally arrived after nightfall, probably around 9 p.m., holding his stomach. Adeline's mother asked whether there was a problem. Van Gogh started to answer with difficulty, "No, but I have," as he climbed the stairs up to his room. Her father thought he could hear groans and found Van Gogh curled up in bed. When he asked whether he was ill, Van Gogh showed him a wound near his heart, explaining during the night. Van Gogh admitted that he had set out for the wheat field where he had recently been painting and attempted suicide by shooting himself.
Oh.
So her father sent Anton Herschig, also a Dutch artist staying in the inn, to alert the local physician. So I guess this inn was popular for artists back then. He then called on Gatschet, Van Gogh's friend and physician, who dressed the wound, but left immediately, considering it a hopeless case. Didn't look good. So the father was like, they said the artist sometimes smoked while he was in bed, sometimes groaned, but remained silent almost all night long, dozing off from time to time. The following morning, 2 gendarmes visited the inn. Gendarmes, by the way, are like military men, French military men. Questioning Van Gogh about his attempted suicide. In response, he simply replied, "My body is mine, and I am free to do what I want with it. Do not accuse anybody. It is I that wish to commit suicide."
Okay.
Pretty ominous, though, that he would be like, "Don't accuse anybody. I did this."
Yeah, that is weird.
So as soon as the post office opened on Monday morning, Adeline's father sent a telegram to Van Gogh's brother, who came. He fell into a coma and died at about 1 o'clock in the morning. His death certificate records the time of death as 1:30 a.m. In a letter to his sister Lies, Theo told of his brother's feelings just before his death. He himself wanted to die. This is his brother talking about him. He himself wanted to die when I sat at his bedside and said that we would try to get him better and that we hoped that he would then be spared this kind of despair. He said, "La tristesse durera toujours." The sadness will last forever. I understood what he wanted to say with those words. It's crazy that he's 37, the same age as you guys.
Oh, no, he's a little younger.
They talk about poor fellow, very little happiness to share, no illusions are left him, the burdens, all that kind of stuff. Some people have different things, like Emily Bernard, an artist and friend of Van Gogh, who arrived in Auvers.
Wait, let's go over that pronunciation one more time. So it's Emile with an accent over the first E, and now you say it?
That's
pretty good.
That's how you say
That's
it.
spot on. Yes.
So, an artist
tongue
and
on
friend of Van Gogh who arrived in Auvers on July 30th for the funeral tells a slightly different story, explaining that Van Gogh went out into the countryside on the Sunday evening, left his easel against a haystack, and went behind the chateau and fired a revolver shot at himself. He tells, Emily's a guy. He tells how Van Gogh had
It's Emile, no?
I think it's Amelie. Had said that his suicide had been absolutely deliberate and that he had done it in complete lucidity, even though this guy wasn't there when it happened. So, pretty weird.
Yeah.
The controversy. Let's talk controversy.
All right,
Was it
let's
a
get into it.
suicide? Was it a murder? In 2011, author Stephen... Do you have a question, Ben?
No. So I guess my only question is, at the time, I might be jumping ahead, but at the time, suicide, no doubt.
Well, at the time, they had no reason to not think it was a suicide because he came home, said it was a suicide. He was known for being a mentally unwell person, told everyone it was a suicide, and when the cops came, he said, "I did this to myself. It was my choice."
Okay. So how did we change our minds, or what's the other alternative?
I'm glad you asked, Ben. I'm going to answer that.
Please.
No, thank you, Ben. I'm going to talk about that.
No, it's no problem.
In 2011, authors Stephen Neff and Gregory White Smith published a biography, Van Gogh, The Life, in which they challenged the conventional account of the artist's death. In the book, Neff and Smith, I hate these names, argue that it was unlikely... Smith, it's so tough. It was unlikely for Van Gogh to have killed himself, not noting the upbeat disposition of the paintings he created immediately preceding his death. I don't think you can always use that because the guy switched on a dime.
Yeah,
Furthermore,
exactly.
And also, like, what about, like, comedians who kill
Are
themselves?
comedians, yeah.
Yeah, they were joking right
Yeah.
before they killed themselves. I
Right,
mean,
right.
that's not...
the clown, whatever, the sad clown.
Sad clown, yeah.
Furthermore, though, in private correspondence, Van Gogh describes suicide as both sinful and immoral. So that's something to think about. The authors also question how Van Gogh could have traveled the mile-long distance between the wheat field and the inn after sustaining the fatal stomach wound, how Van Gogh could have possibly obtained a gun despite his well-known mental health problems, and why Van Gogh's painting gear was never found by the police.
Interesting.
So Nafe and Smith developed an alternative hypothesis in which Van Gogh did not commit suicide, but rather as a possible victim of accidental manslaughter or, quote, foul play. They point out that the bullet entered Van Gogh's abdomen at an oblique angle, not straight as might be expected from a suicide. They claim that he was acquainted with the boys who may have shot him, one of whom was in the habit of wearing a cowboy suit and had gone drinking with them. So the author, one of the authors goes, so you have a couple of teenagers who have a malfunctioning gun. You have a boy who likes to play cowboy. You have three people, probably all of whom had too much to drink. He concluded that accidental homicide was far more likely. They also contend that art historian John Wewald visited Auvers in the 1930s and recorded the version of events that is widely believed. The authors postulate that after he was fatally wounded, Van Gogh welcomed death and believed the boys had done him a favor, hence his widely quoted deathbed remark, "Do not accuse anyone. It is I who wanted to kill myself."
Oh.
So kind of maybe he viewed it as a gift. He was like, it was an accident, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So 60 Minutes kind of was like, that's not true. They kind of investigated it. Skeptic Joe Nickel, he was like, I'm not convinced by this offered alternative stuff. Whatever, we don't need to hear from the skeptics.
Okay.
But here's the thing. In 2014, at Smith and Nafe's request, handgun expert Vincent reviewed the forensic evidence surrounding Van Gogh's shooting. DeMau noted that to shoot himself in the left abdomen, Van Gogh would have had to held the gun at a very awkward angle, and that there would have been black powder burns on his hands and tattooing and other marks on the skin around the wound, none of which is noted in the contemporary report. DeMau gave his conclusion that, quote, "It is my opinion that in all medical probability, the wound incurred by Van Gogh was not self-inflicted. In other words, he did not shoot himself."
Okay.
Interesting.
Bit much.
Yeah.
This is actually apparently. I mean, you saw both of these movies. The 2017 film Loving Vincent drew heavily on that theory, and it is also the account presented in the 2018 film At Eternity's Gate. Do they talk about him being murdered?
In At Eternity's Gate, they definitely do address that. Loving Vincent. Oh shoot, I saw that on an airplane and I liked it, but I don't remember exactly.
You saw that beautiful art animation?
Yeah, I saw it on like a little tiny TV. It was actually really weird, but it was very good. I guess they do talk about it, but I saw it a long time ago.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now, and feel free to stop me at any moment when I'm talking.
Okay.
I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking. I feel like you guys are just hot and bothered.
No.
I'm going to go through the conventional, I'm sweating like a hooer in church. Jack the Ripper is going to cut me tip to taint right after this. On the morning of July 27th, 1890. So this is the conventional suicide theory. Van Gogh left the Royal Inn where he was lodging just outside Paris. He went to a wheat field close to the inn, presumably to paint. Unusually for him, he stayed out all day and only returned after nightfall and cleared his comfort. Moments later, the innkeeper realized the artist had been shot. Van Gogh bluntly stated, "I have tried to kill myself." That's why people think he tried to kill himself.
Right.
It seemed
That
he had shot
close.
himself in the chest at some point of the day. Death would slowly come. So here's the holes in the story. The motive for suicide was there, but this was a man who was utterly beset by turmoil, seeking unending anguish within. But look more closely at the case, and some troubling questions emerge. For example, why would Van Gogh have shot himself in the chest rather than simply in the head?
Right, exactly.
Why would you make it? Why take a long chance of a long, lingering, painful death with such a cumbersome shot? That being said, he is a tortured guy. I kind of would believe that maybe he would want to make it hurt.
Yeah, the cutting off the ear too. I mean, it's
Yeah.
We're gonna get to that. Where did
Okay.
he get the gun anyway? Why wasn't the gun recovered by officials at the time? Both good questions. Why did
Yeah.
he say the words "do not accuse anybody"? And why did a man so famed for his many eloquent letters to his brother not leave even a hint of a suicide note?
True. He would have.
I think I do have a possible explanation, but please continue, and then I'll say mine.
Dr. Vincent, I want to hear it.
Well, I just think that because of the ear thing, and I think he might have had like a not out of body experience, but like a spell where I don't think he was exactly thinking
Right.
clearly
Interesting-
when the event actually
interesting
happened,
theory.
if he committed suicide.
So Dr. Vincent DeMau, who was an expert witness in the George Zimmerman case, actually.
Oh.
Which is wild.
Interesting.
Because this happened in 2014 that he came in.
Oh,
and said it.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's the one that was like saying things like the wound was a brown ring with a purple halo that around it. all of the kind of instincts are that it wasn't self-inflicted. Basically,
Okay.
I'm not going to bog you down with the nonsense there, but Demal was like pretty confident that it wasn't self-inflicted.
Okay.
It'd be very hard
And
to shoot
awkward
yourself,
and- yeah.
shoot yourself
weird
like
thing.
this.
Okay.
Yeah, and also like I guess there would, because it was a revolver, there would be like burns and shit on
Yeah.
your hand. So who did it? Incredibly, you're not going to believe this, there is an actual named suspect in the case, René Secretan.
Okay.
René Secretan.
Well, let's do it.
He was a cocky teenager whose wealthy family would holiday in the area every summer. Obsessed with the Wild West, having seen Buffalo Bill's famous show when it toured in France, Secretan was known to go around in full cowboy garb and had a real working pistol, which, according to a later interview with Secretan himself, was prone to malfunctioning.
Oh, my own.
So this is the kid that is
so
addressed in these movies.
this
Okay.
is the kid the boys that he would be like that would be over there.
Right,
And according to
right.
documents and testimonies uncovered by the biographers, Stephen Nefe and Gregory White Smith, Secretan and his cronies would mock and bully Van Gogh, who was regarded as a bizarre eccentric in the community. They would sprinkle hot pepper on Van Gogh's brushes, which he would like suck when he was deep in thought.
Oh, my God. That's
And
so
they poured
mean.
salt in his tea and even put a live snake in his paint box.
What? I hate these kids.
These kids are bullying him, and then one of them had a revolver that was prone to malfunctioning.
Oh, and then in kind of almost a nice little twist, not nice, but he
Bingo.
would have covered for them
Yeah.
if this theory were true.
So let's cement the murder theory, huh? It mostly comes down to the testimony of a 13-year-old girl.
Okay.
It's an unreliable narrator, Adeline Revaux. She was the daughter of the owner of the Revaux Inn. She first spoke for the record in 1953, 70-plus years later, claiming Van Gogh confessed to suicide on his deathbed. So I don't think you're remembering everything he said at that point.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot. Also, here's another thing. To your thing with the ear stuff, does he have a history of protecting his accidental attackers? So, a book by two German historians begs to differ with the traditional ear story. So they think what really happened in 1888 is that Van Gogh's artist friend Paul Gauguin lopped off his friend's lobe while they were fencing in southern France.
Oh.
The self-mutilation story was concocted between the two to avoid Gauguin's embarrassment and arrest. The ear stuff is one of the main defenses in the suicide theory. Of course he killed himself. He cut off his own ear, which was your first thing.
That's my first
Right.
instinct, that basically he can enter a different
Yeah.
world where he's willing to do these crazy things.
But
Yeah.
here we go. Did he? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did he make that up? Which is similar to him just kind of making up this story after that, because it's part of him that thinks he deserves this pain and that kind of stuff. I think it kind of sounds that deep down he does want to, was a good person, at least not a bad person.
Yeah.
And he probably would have written to his brother about it.
You okay?
There's meatballs in my throat now.
Okay. Okay. So, question is whether he is suicidal or whether he is prone to.
I have 104 fever. There's a heat wave in my body. It's hotter in my body than it is outside.
I understand. We should also mention that today is the hottest day of all
It's
time.
like it's 90s,
And tomorrow's supposed to be even
90s,
hotter.
It's
high
unbelievable.
90s.
Yeah.
The air conditioner's off, and we just went fucking full torque on a pile of Greek food.
Which we thought would be lighter.
I had a gyro packed with French fries on top of it.
It was good.
It
but-
was wonderful,
yeah.
but let me tell you something. I'm sweating from every pore.
I'm dying.
Thank God I'm wearing a white tee. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see our foreheads and upper lips.
Yeah, we're not making
just become
it up. If you're just
drenched.
listening, if you're just listening, please put it on YouTube. This is not a
my
bit.
God.
Yeah, this is. I look like the. I'm sick. I can't even see myself, but I can feel the film that's over my entire body. And let me tell you something. It's not a healthy look, feel, or sight.
Do we have the Delta variant? Like, oh my God.
Oh God.
Okay, so here's the conclusion that I will leave with you, and then I want you to decide between the two. I want you two to decide because there's really a clear thing. There's a clear thing, and also I can't think anymore. But
Okay.
at the end of the day, Van Gogh was an eccentric introvert. His obsessive, quarrelsome nature often rubbed people the wrong way. His letters reveal that he alternatively viewed himself as a messianic figure.
Messianic.
Okay, fucker. Or
You were
utter
struggling.
failure. Asshole.
Just go. Just
Listen, he
it's
drank,
over.
he smelled bad, he had a mangled air, and he painted outside. He viewed himself as this messiah or worthless, as many artists do, and part of him thought he deserved death and maybe even wanted to be that martyr figure. So if it was suicide or murder doesn't really matter. In the end, he became even more of a legend than anyone could have imagined.
True.
Okay, but let's go to the mystery part. That's
So the
nice.
mystery
That's-
is, Okay, I thought I wrote something nice there at the end.
It is, but it's not the okay. Well,
I got steamrolled.
You're
But I thought I wrote a nice little sentiment at the end.
so. I guess, but it's also like a frustrating thing where it's like we just went through this whole mystery, but at the end of the day, the mystery doesn't matter.
So there's 2 points. There's 2 forks in the road.
Please.
One, I go to the hospital right now. No, the one is that he did commit suicide. The guy was a very sad man with deep-rooted mental health issues.
Right.
He was not successful in any way, shape, or form. He
Yeah.
was viewed as a pariah. He had artist friends, and he had a family. But at the end of the day, he really wasn't doing well. And sometimes his health was so bad, he saw no hope whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's the flip side. He was on the mend, and there's clear evidence that he was in one of the best phases of his life when this happened. His paintings were some of the happiest. He was sending out happy letters. He was in a place where he felt good. He was painting outside, doing all these things. He kept saying how tranquil it made him feel. It's odd that he would kill. This is something I'm saying. It's odd that he would kill himself in a wheat field, which he constantly told his brother how good it made him feel.
Yeah.
Why would you want to shoot yourself there?
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the issue that he was a hard drinker. The townspeople didn't love him. These kids, there were I read that they like pretended to be his friend, but also were bullying him and mean to him. This kid thought he was a fucking cowboy, had a gun that was proven to malfunction.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they're pretending to shoot him. They accidentally shoot him. This guy goes, honestly, it's going to happen one way or the other.
Well, I'm thinking now, like, because his mental health could change on a dime, maybe he was in the field and he didn't feel the happiness that he felt before, and he was about to go into a decline and was like, I can't do this again. I can't go 4 months of this unhappiness. And, like, this isn't bringing me happiness, and it normally does.
I like that.
You know?
Yeah.
But to take a revolver in.
Yeah, the angle is weird.
Yeah, the angle's the thing that gets me.
The
I think
angles
that
of the fact that they never found the gun. Where did he get the gun?
yes, that stuff is more convincing to me than the fact that he could be happy one moment and upset the next moment, that he said he would never commit suicide, but he did. Like, all that stuff, I don't think.
There's
you
also
could still commit suicide
a
over
credit to the fact that artists were big gossips back then. They used to tell tales to each other. People loved to really pump up how crazy he was. People really ran with that air story, even though it sounds like it might not have even happened the way it did. People loved running with the suicide story because it made him more of a legend. So it's like, how much of it's true? The guy clearly had deep-seated issues.
Yeah, he wasn't doing well.
He was not doing well. It's not like he was robbed of a long, very happy life.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if he said that he thought suicide was immoral and he saw himself in a good place.
Yeah.
I mean, I do get what you're saying, but I just think that there's the counter of if someone's really suffering from, I don't know if it's manic depression or bipolar or whatever the diagnosis is.
It sounds like it's manic with deep kind of
Bad depression.
That it's possible to go against what when you're
Yeah.
rationally thinking, stand for or
Listen,
believe.
and if you're in one of those bouts, there's no rational way to kill yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Having said that, the story of him covering up for people is actually kind of sweet in a way.
It's kind of cute.
It's nice. It made me feel good.
Yeah.
I liked that. There's a certain actually deep. It almost makes it sadder because I think that there's a part of him that's like, I wanted to kill myself. Don't accuse anybody. Like, it's like I wanted to die.
Right.
It's just odd. It's just an odd thing for him to shoot himself in the stomach, walk back to the inn, and then just slowly die in bed.
Yeah. You'd think he would finish the job.
Or stay where you shot yourself.
Yeah, that too.
If you walk back to the inn, there's a chance people are there. You know they're going to try to help you.
Yeah.
And he didn't refuse care.
Yeah.
Again, the ear thing though shows that he's willing to like hurt himself without necessarily killing himself.
If that happened the way that it did.
Correct.
Although there was one thing, I don't know if it was true, but there was like a rumor that one of the doctors was like, maybe we can get you to pull through. And then he said something that might have been a jest, might not have been, but he was like, then maybe I need to finish the job next time. So.
Yeah, sad.
It's a
tale.
tough.
Yeah.
Tough one.
I don't know. I don't know where I stand. I think both theories could be true.
Oh, way to take a stance, Kirschenbaum.
I think suicide. I think
You're going
suicide.
Sue?
I think Sue.
You're going Sue?
Yeah, I'm going Sue.
I'm going murder. And that's that.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna go.
I'm taking an ice bath.
Yeah, I
Yep.
don't feel well.
Yeah.
I'm going to shoot myself in the stomach.
I was going to go to a party tonight, and I am promptly.
You're going to need to
not
go
going to
wash. Let me tell you something. I'm going to take
Yeah.
a cold shower. I'm going to watch a movie.
Yeah. That sounds delightful.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.